mind, Spicoli. Just put the shirts back on. You see that sign? No shirt, no shoes, no dice. Right.
A teen movie about pizza, pirate uniforms, and mall jobs accidentally started blockbuster careers and many Oscar-winning careers. In 1982, Fast Times at Ridgemont High came to theaters thanks to Universal Pictures, and what first looked like just another sunny R-rating high school comedy turned into a time capsule for a whole generation. Directed by Amy Heckerling and written by Cameron Crowe, the film starred a group of actors who were unknown at the time, including Sean Penn, Judge Reinhold, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Forrest Whitaker, and a quick appearance by Nicolas Cage that you could easily miss. At that time, they were just a group of young people hanging out at the mall. Looking back now, they were the class of '82. But behind the Vans slip-ons, Camaro crashes, and Damone's 5-point plan, there is a lot of strange stuff that most of us never knew about. Today, we are counting down 15 strange facts about Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And stay until number 15 because it includes undercover journalism, a real high school, and the moment that made this movie feel a little too real. Now, before we start, make sure to press that like button and subscribe so you do not end up like Brad Hamilton working the fryer while wearing a pirate costume. And tell us in the comments, what is the first thing you think of when someone says Fast Times? Now, let us get into class with number 1. The Maverick of All-American Burger. Before Top Gun made him Maverick, and Risky Business showed him sliding across wooden floors in his underwear, Tom Cruise tried out for the role of Brad in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes, you're fired. I'm very sorry, sir. I'll refund your money right now.
He was still a teenager, just coming off taps, and already showing that very focused, slightly scary level of intensity. The kind of intensity that later starts billion-dollar movie franchises, not the kind that calmly sells you a fish sandwich while keeping a straight face. And that was the problem. According to stories told later, the filmmakers felt that Cruise's strong intensity did not really match the relaxed, slightly unlucky personality that Brad needed. Cruise was too serious and too focused. Brad needed to be embarrassed.
Look, I'm a senior now. I'm a single successful guy.
So, Cruise did not get the role and later went on to become the biggest movie star in the world. Then Judge Reinhold stepped in and brought the perfect 80s everyday guy energy. The kind of guy who could make that Captain Hook uniform breakdown feel painfully and hilariously real. Reinhold made Brad the kind of person you supported because you had been in his situation before. Cruise would have made Brad the kind of person you might feel a little nervous around. One casting decision, two completely different timelines. Number 2, the Academy Award class of '82. The guy hitting himself on the head with a sneaker would later end up owning 2 Oscars. Yes, nobody expected that to happen. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was meant to be a teen comedy about hormones, pizza delivery, and questionable life choices. But somehow, it also became a starting point for 3 future Academy Award winners. Sean Penn, also known as Jeff Spicoli, was ordering pizza to Mr. Hand's class and turning a laid-back surfer into one of the most quoted characters of the decade.
Sorry I'm late. It's just like this new schedule's totally confusing.
Years later, Mystic River and Milk would win him 2 Oscars, but in 1982, he was just a guy wearing checkered slip-on shoes. Forrest Whitaker played Charles Jefferson, calmly destroying a whole football team after his Camaro was damaged.
She is pissed off.
That quiet anger was already there long before The Last King of Scotland won him an Oscar in the Best Actor category. And then there is Nicolas Cage, who appeared without credit in the background as one of Brad's friends. He later said that he tried out for the role of Brad, but did not get it. A rejection that feels almost poetic when you think about the very unpredictable career that came after it.
Disgusting, horrible memory I have of any experience on a movie set.
Including an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas. This was not a serious drama film. It was not a small independent movie being shared around at Sundance. It was a teen movie set in a mall food court. Most movies like this create popular catchphrases. This one created 3 Academy Award-winning careers. Number 3. The audition that never really happened, and the character he never left. When Sean Penn went to meet director Amy Heckerling for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, he did not open a script. There was no reading on the spot, no nervous monologue, no "thank you for the opportunity, I really connect with this character." He basically said, "I know this guy," and he really did.
So if we don't get some cool rules ourselves, pronto, we'll just be bogus too.
Penn showed up like he had just walked off the beach, with sand still in his shoes. The feeling was so perfect that Heckerling later said she knew almost right away, that's Spicoli. He quickly became the clear choice. No long audition process was needed. And then he never left. From the very first day, Penn stayed in character, even between takes.
Oh, Mr. Hand, what's the reason for your truancy?
Just couldn't make it on time.
He reportedly insisted that the cast and crew call him Jeff, off camera, at lunch, always. According to people on set, if you called him Sean, you got nothing. But if you called out Spicoli, you got a ride on that slow-motion surfer wave. His co-stars were not completely sure if they were seeing pure genius or just a guy who had baked too long in the California sun. It was probably a little bit of both. It is even funnier because Penn later became one of the most intense actors of his generation. But even today, Spicoli is still one of his most quoted and recognized characters. "Hey, but what's wrong?" and "Aloha, Mr. Hand."
The way of looking at that wave and saying, "Hey, bud, let's party."
That character has outlasted decades of serious roles. Penn walked into that meeting as Spicoli, never stopped being Spicoli, and 40 years later, the world still won't let him forget that he is Spicoli. Number 4. The Zeppelin Cold Shoulder. You might think that if you were a teenage journalist who toured with Led Zeppelin in the 1970s, the guy who basically lived on the tour bus, you would have some influence when you needed a favor. Turns out, you don't. By 1982, Cameron Crowe was not just a random fan asking for scraps. He had written about the band for Rolling Stone. He'd spent time on tour with them. He had stories and history, probably a few backstage passes still lying around in a drawer somewhere too. So when he was putting together Fast Times at Ridgemont High, he naturally wanted Zeppelin on the soundtrack. Big guitar riffs, big energy, perfect for that California cruising the valley, windows down, early 80s vibe. Seems reasonable, right? Wrong. In 1982, Led Zeppelin treated their music like it was locked in Fort Knox. No commercials, no random movies. The band, along with their famously strong-willed manager, Peter Grant, protected their music carefully. Crowe's old tour bus experience didn't help at all. Doors stayed closed and riffs were denied. So Crowe changed plans and found other songs. The soundtrack still worked, but imagine any Zeppelin track booming over a Ridgemont High parking lot scene. That was an alternate 1982 we almost got. You can spend your teenage years on tour with one of the loudest bands in rock history, but when the licensing department says no, you are still just a guy asking permission. Even rock royalty has to follow the paperwork. Number 5. The shoe that broke the internet before the internet existed. Sean Penn helped create Spicoli's relaxed surfer style in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Relax, all right? My old man is a television repairman.
This included choosing the black and white checkerboard Vans slip-ons that would become the character's signature look. At that time, Vans were deeply connected to Southern California skate culture. If you were not skating the streets of Long Beach or hanging out in Venice Beach, you probably had not thought much about them. They were a small, niche brand, the kind of shoe only people in the know would know about. Then Fast Times came to theaters, and suddenly every kid from Maine to Montana wanted those slip-on.
This will be a little demonstration of that. Listen up.
The film gave Vans huge national attention, all because one actor decided they were exactly what Spicoli would wear. And the best part? There is no record of a formal product placement deal, no endorsement contract, no corporate plan. Ben basically gave Vans a 90-minute commercial completely for free. More than 40 years later, you can still buy the same checkerboard slip-ons in malls all across America. Vans owes Sean Penn a pizza statue, or at least a lifetime supply of cheese sticks. One actor, One wardrobe choice, one pair of shoes that became the unofficial shoes of an entire decade. Number 6. The Holy Land, Sherman Oaks Galleria. Director Amy Heckerling did not want a fake backlot mall or a dressed-up soundstage. She wanted the real heart of the valley. Escalators, neon lights, food court chaos, everything. So they filmed inside the actual, fully operating Galleria. This means some of the background shoppers may have been real 1982 mall visitors, genuinely wondering what was happening near the Orange Julius. The interiors of All-American Burger were actually filmed on a soundstage, not inside the Galleria itself. But the exterior and mall area shots were filmed on location, and the Galleria's energy is part of every scene set around it. The set designers did such a good job that most people never questioned it. Either way, the vibe feels real because the mall scenes were based on an actual place. After Fast Times, the Galleria became the gold standard. Every teen movie wanted that bright, food court freedom energy. The mall went from just a shopping place to a cultural landmark almost overnight. The original Galleria was eventually redeveloped in the mid-1990s. The Galleria is gone, the Arcane is gone, the Orange Julius probably costs about $9 now, but for 90 minutes, that mall lives forever. And so does the version of us who thought it was the center of the universe. Number 7. The greatest soundtrack betrayal of 1982. There's a scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High that is stuck in the memory of everyone who saw it. You know the one. Phoebe Cates, the pool, the slow-motion walk, Judge Reinhold's, let's call it, daydream, and the song playing underneath all of it was Moving in Stereo by the Cars. And it became forever linked to that moment. You cannot hear the opening notes without your brain automatically finishing the rest. It is one of the most famous music moments in 80s movies, period. So of course, when you ran out to buy the official Fast Times soundtrack, it was not there. Not on side A, not hiding on side B, it was just gone. Because of licensing rules, Moving in Stereo was left off the official 1982 soundtrack release. Even though it was the most memorable piece of music in the whole film, if you wanted it, you had to buy the Cars' 1978 debut album separately. To be fair, that album is full of great songs, so it was not exactly a hardship, but the principle of it is crazy. The most unforgettable music moment in the movie did not appear on the movie's own soundtrack. You had one job, Elektra, one job. Totally unfair. Number 8. The Pepperoni-Scented Truth. The pizza delivery scene in Fast Times at Ridgemont High is one of the most quoted moments in 80s comedies. Spicoli orders a whole pizza to Mr. Hand's classroom. The delivery guy walks right in and hands over the box in the middle of the lecture.
Order the double cheese and sausage.
Right here, dude.
No shame, no hesitation, no apology. And for some high school kids, that was not made up. Before Uber Eats, students trying to annoy their teacher would do the exact same thing. The total confidence of a teenager who looked at a classroom full of people and thought, yeah, this needs pepperoni. But nobody expected what happened after the movie came out. Fast Times turned bringing pizza to class into a nationwide dare. Suddenly, every school in America had at least one kid calling Domino's from the payphone and giving the delivery driver a room number instead of an address. Teachers spent the rest of the 80s stopping pizza delivery people in hallways and taking slices like they were illegal.
Who is it?
Mr. Pizza Guy.
Again?
Mr. Pizza Guy, sir.
All because one scene gave a whole generation the same wild, brilliant idea at the same time. Most of us were way too scared of our own Mr. Hand to even chew gum in class, but for the brave few who actually tried it, you are legends. Okay, we're halfway through this list, so we'll take a quick pause because I need to know, do you remember running to the mall, quoting Spicoli in class, or pretending you fully understood the 5-point plan? If you do, hit that like button and tell us in the comments. Were you more like Spicoli, Brad, Stacy, or secretly Mr. Hand? All right, let's get back to the mall with number 9, the Z28 tragedy and a legend's debut. In the early 80s, a Chevy Camaro Z28 was the top car in the high school parking lot. Polished, roaring, and basically shouting, "I'm better than your entire carpool."
Owning one meant you had made it. Wrecking one meant someone was going to be in big trouble. Spicoli chose disaster. We never actually see the crash, just the aftermath and Spicoli's panicked story. And honestly, that is even worse. Your imagination does all the work. For anyone who spent high school driving a hand-me-down Pinto with a prayer and a loose gas cap, this was a full-body horror experience. But then comes the cover-up, and this is peak teenage thinking. Spicoli tries to blame Lincoln High for the damage. No careful planning, no alibis, just desperation and a dream. The amazing part? Jefferson totally believes it.
Jefferson's gonna really make Lincoln pay for this.
Revenge comes next, and then he takes whatever anger is left onto the football field and plays like the Z-28's ghost is coaching him from the sideline. One joyride, one cover-up, one of the most satisfying chain reactions in 80s comedies. And for a generation of car-obsessed kids who couldn't even afford gas money, you laughed, you winced, and you silently thanked the universe that it wasn't your car. Number 10. The Math of the 5-Point Plan. Now, if you were a nervous 16-year-old sweating through an Izod at the spring fling, the 5-point plan was not funny. It was like gospel. But here's the twist.
What you need is my special 5-point plan.
Come on, Damone, I need real help here.
In Cameron Crowe's original book, the nonfiction story that became the basis for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, it was not even 5 points. It was 3. Yes, a 3-point plan. When they turned it into a screenplay, someone wisely realized that 3 rules were not enough to match Damone's personality, so they upgraded it. 5 points. More build-up, more delusion, more comedy.
You never let on how much you like a girl. Oh, Dappy. Hi.
And then, Robert Romanus delivered the whole plan like he was teaching a masterclass at Harvard Business School. Don't ever show how much you like her. Whenever possible, play side 1 of Led Zeppelin 4. Wherever you are, that's the place to be. For about 90 seconds, he makes it sound perfect, scientific, like he has solved the romantic code of the entire universe, and we believed every single word. At least half of us tried point 4 at a party. You know the move. Lean against a wall, nod like you're above it all, pretend you absolutely meant to be standing alone by the punch bowl. Meanwhile, in the actual movie, the plan fails spectacularly because, shocker, taking relationship advice from a ticket scalper might not be the way to emotional maturity. But for one glorious moment in 1982, Damone gave a whole generation of awkward teenagers something priceless.
But I'll give it to you for free.
Okay, what's your 5-point plan?
All right.
Confidence. Totally unearned and completely wrong, but confidence nonetheless. More than 40 years later, people still quote it like it's proven science. Damone would be proud, and probably still single. Number 11. Amy Heckerling, queen of the teen movie. Amy Heckerling did not care what anyone thought. Fast Times at Ridgemont High was her first feature film, and she turned Cameron Crowe's source material into a heart-punching, hilarious, perfectly awkward look at suburban adolescence. She was 27 years old, just out of the AFI conservatory, and given the keys to a movie full of unknown actors, mall food courts, and enough R-rated chaos to make a studio executive sweat through a sport coat. What made Heckerling different was the tone. In 1982, most directors would have treated this material like a joke factory. Crank up the gags, laugh at the dumb kids, cash the check. Heckerling went the other way. She made you laugh, yes, but she also made you feel something. The character meltdowns are funny, but you care about the guy because you've been that guy. And that balance, funny without being mean, is much harder than it looks. She went on to direct Clueless over a decade later. The fact that she nailed teenagers in both decades shows everything about her instincts, but it all started here at Ridgemont High, with a debut director who looked at a scrappy teen comedy and found something real underneath. Most first films get forgotten. Heckerling's became a blueprint. Number 12. Rock royalty roasting a red light extra. There is a small moment in Fast Times at Ridgemont High that most people did not notice in 1982. Brad Hamilton is stuck at a red light wearing a Captain Hook meets Deep Fryer uniform, looking like he lost a bet with the costume department. A woman in the next car sees this sad scene and starts laughing. That woman was Nancy Wilson from Heart.
as in Barracuda, Crazy on You, Hall of Fame shredding guitar since the 70s, Nancy Wilson. The cameo happened because Wilson was dating Cameron Crowe at the time. When your boyfriend is writing the most talked-about teen comedy of 1982, apparently you get pulled into a scene whether you planned on it or not. Nancy and Cameron got married 4 years later in 1986, and that connection kept giving creative opportunities. Wilson contributed music to several of Crowe's major projects, including composing the score for Almost Famous, the semi-autobiographical film about Crowe's teenage years as a rock journalist. So, the woman who laughed at Brad Hamilton's worst moment eventually helped score one of the most beloved music films ever made. Not a bad story for a blink-and-you-miss-it red light cameo. Number 13, the real Mr. Hand is out there. Mr. Hand was a total buzzkill, the sworn enemy of good vibes, the only man in Southern California immune to Spicoli's surfer charm. But here's the thing, he was not some made-up cartoon villain from a writer's room. He was real.
Aloha. My name is Mr. Hand.
Mr. Hand is actually based on a real teacher, a man who was completely obsessed with one thing: his time. Not school time, not shared time, his time. Every whisper, every distraction, every rogue slice of pepperoni felt like a personal theft of the man's life. So when it came time to cast Mr. Hand, they didn't choose some red-faced screamer. They cast Ray Walston.
Mr. Hand, will I pass this class? Gee, Mr. Spicoli, I don't know.
A seasoned professional who knew that real authority doesn't yell, it quietly commands. Walston didn't explode. He watched, he paused, and he delivered lines like a man calmly filing paperwork on your future. Mr. Hand worked because he wasn't evil. He genuinely wanted you to learn U.S. history and stop acting like Woodstock was still happening in the hallway. At 16, though, when he tore up those concert tickets, it felt like a federal crime.
Hey, you're ripping my car.
Yeah.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
Looking back, he might have been the only adult in the building thinking long-term, but in Ridgemont, he was the man. The guy reminding us that no matter how sunny the parking lot looked, the real world was still punching the time card. Number 14, the $5 million gamble. Universal's plan for Fast Times at Ridgemont High was simple. Give a first-time director about $5 million and let her make a throwaway teen movie. A modest budget, modest expectations. Let the kids act, sell some tickets, and move on.
Got any Blue Oyster Cult?
No, I don't have any Blue Oyster Cult. I ate 34 pairs last time around. Where were you?
No one expected awards or lasting cultural impact. Just teen skin, angst, and whatever popcorn they could sell with it. Nobody told the audience that, though. The movie ran up over $27 million in the US, more than 5 times its budget. Teens lined up, sneaked in, and dragged their friends back for second and third viewings. An R-rated teen comedy with no big stars, made for pocket change by Hollywood standards, outperformed movies with 10 times the marketing power.
Hey, come over to help you with your math homework. Figured you could use it on such a hot day.
And about that R rating, the studio was sure it would ruin them. No teenager will pay to see this, they said. Meanwhile, Gen Xers like us were finding creative ways in. Distracted ticket takers, helpful older siblings, perfect timing, everyone found a way. That modest gamble turned into a huge success and basically changed the rules for teen comedies. Hollywood realized that if you treat teenagers like real humans with awkward moments, bad jobs, and social embarrassment, they will gladly spend money. Universal got a pile of cash. We got a cultural touchstone. And honestly, that seems like a fair trade. Number 15, the undercover teen detective who gave us Spicoli. Most writers research a movie by reading books, doing interviews, and maybe visiting a location for a weekend. Cameron Crowe enrolled in high school. Not as a guest, not as an observer with a clipboard and a visitor's badge, but as a student. In 1979, the 22-year-old convinced the principal at Ridgemont High in San Diego to let him pose as a senior under the name Dave Cameron. 1 full year, classes, pep rallies, cafeteria mysteries, the whole experience. And this wasn't some journalist fishing for a magazine story. Crowe had already road-tripped with Led Zeppelin at 16 and written for Rolling Stone as a teenager.
He had hung out with rock stars and decided the real story was hiding in a suburban high school hallway. He soaked up everything: the gossip, the parking lot conversations, the awkward dances, the kid who actually had a pizza delivered to class mid-lecture. Every moment was written down in field notes like a war correspondent embedded in 10th period. That's why Fast Times at Ridgemont High doesn't sound like adults guessing what teenagers talk like. The dialogue wasn't tested in a writer's room. It was inspired by real conversations in real hallways, real food courts, and real classrooms. When the book came out, the students at Claremont finally realized what had happened. The quiet older kid who never said much in homeroom had been documenting everything. Spicoli, the surfer burnout blueprint for every stoner character in movies since, was inspired by real students, Crowe observed, at Claremont High.
Why do you shamelessly waste my time like this?
I don't know.
Brad Hamilton, the hero for every teen humiliated at a summer job, was based on students Crowe observed. While most 22-year-olds in 1979 were figuring out life, Crowe built a time capsule that launched future Oscar winners, changed teen comedies, and gave us a movie still quoted today. One guy raised his hand in a high school he didn't belong to and said, "I'm Dave." And that's 15 weird facts about Fast Times at Ridgemont High. From undercover journalism to Oscar-winning actors delivering pizza in class, it was more than a teen comedy. Remember, no matter how sunny the parking lot looks, someone is always clocking your time.